Give me your thoughts on the last 3 months. I mean, now that you've had a little time to digest it all, what do you make of all of this? And is this fear something you still feel that's out there in a big way?
I think the fear is going to continue to build until we wake up from the dream we've put ourselves into as humanity here. But the fear is something that's been baked into our mindset since really the origin and beginning of time. And so I am really thrilled to imagine a scenario where humans are so empowered with their own capacity to change and transform that there's only a call to action and only a call for opportunity rather than a call to fear and paranoia. And to get there, we're going to have to really reconsider the worst case scenarios, which is ultimately death. And we've seen a lot of people die this last few months in relationship to a virus that's come around the world. And those deaths have been predictable in that we are on course towards the extinction of our species. And so as we really come to terms with the fact that extinction means death, I think that that's somehow been lacking from our general consciousness when we say global warming and collapse of climate, and we've lost 40% of life on Earth, and we're losing a species to extinction every 20 minutes. All these statistics get thrown at us all the time, and it doesn't sink in that that means we're going to die, And so in the end, we're afraid of something that's happening around us because we don't understand it or we don't feel the opportunity to change it. And so this has been the most extraordinary example of a whole planet now, 7 billion people strong, going into that fear paradigm.
Yeah, it's a deep thing when you think about, well, first of all, death is part of life. I mean, I don't think a lot of people ever want to even think about that. We keep ourselves busy usually, so we don't have to consider that reality. Now we've had a lot of time to think, and then we're being faced with this thing that we thought at first was going to cause a significant amount of death. Now it looks like statistically it's less. But your point is that if we don't change our behavior, we're all going to go anyways.
Yeah, and it's not personal in the sense that the planet is collapsing in its biologic capacity to produce life. And this kind of harkens back in some ways to imagine those early Star Trek movies where you've got Captain Kirk landing on these distant planets and they're trying to decide, is this habitable to life? This is literally one of those planets that miraculously had all of the right ingredients for life to happen. It had carbon that could be changed in form to create backbone of biology. It had water that could then animate that carbon life form. And it has energy in the shape of a sun that's just close enough to the Earth to charge the Earth's surface with photonic energy so that biology would be powered into this animated state of water and carbon. And life would then generate through the origin of viruses. And the viruses would slowly build life on the planet into an extraordinary biodiversity and adaptive biology that's capable of everything. And now we see the underpinnings of that collapse. And it is because we are disrupting the carbon soil systems, the water, and the air that we breathe. And on this trajectory, Captain Kirk lands in a few hundred years and finds a planet that's no longer habitable by not just humans, but any large biology. And we'll be back down into bacteria, fungi, and a few species of algae that can still bloom in acidic oceans. And so we are backing ourselves back to the origins of this planet or other planets where they are in this inhabitable space. And with that, I think that we have a hard time imagining what it looks like to get from now to that point of complete collapse. And this pandemic is a very minor ripple effect. This is like that little early tremor in the collapse of a species. And this, the death tolls that happened came nowhere near challenging the human population, the species continued growth, our population rise. It couldn't touch any of that because it really affected most of all people over the age of 75 that were at high mortality likelihood in this 12-month period anyways. And so there was no change in the trajectory of the cancer-like growth of human species from this virus. So this virus is not what causes extinction. There is no virus, I would posit, that can cause extinction. extinction has to be an undermining instead of the fundamentals of health. Disease doesn't end health. It's the collapse of health that welcomes in disease. And that's what we've seen with this pandemic.